the real failure is doing this safety car speed.
Yeah, the safety car's it's trying too hard.
Now, clear to go.
Trying too hard to slow the field to an unusually slow speed in order to try and get the track repairs done. I mean, in the end, it just gets silly.
But the point is, when they come out and they come out at speed, the reality is you make ground on a 40k safety car. Here we go.
So we've just heard the voice of race director Tim Schenken, who's made it clear on the race management channel.
The order for the first 3 cars.
The order of the first 3 cars is 5, 88 and 17.
There we go.
Confirming 5, 88, 17.
Finally, we've got that resolved.
Now Stephen Johnson gives Jamie Whincup that position. It was worth the fight, though. So finally, the order has been sorted, and finally we can go racing. This is what we wanted to see. But Mark Winterbottom's gone wide.
No tyre temp. He's going to get monstered here on the run to 1.
Jamie Whincup will get the race lead back. Can you believe that? And Stephen Johnson will go with him.
That is a very silly manoeuvre.
Well, Johnson's now going to get the lead. So the lead has changed 3 times in the space of 3 turns.
Well done, Steve Johnson. Great driving. That's a very silly manoeuvre for Mark Winterbottom, because you don't need to make a mistake on a restart like that. You're the leader. Don't run wide.
Okay, Jono, Winterbottom ran off the circuit and I passed him.
So these laps, very important. As you can see in the background, there's Van Gisbergen down the inside.
So what Jamie Whincup's concerned about is affecting a pass before he gets to the start line, which you can't do. But he's saying, because Winterbottom was off the track, I passed him. So just to explain that, that's what that's all about. Typically, you can't pass until you get to the control line.
Winterbottom went so wide.
But was he past him? Because I thought he was basically... The overlap's allowed, isn't it? The overlap's allowed. So I thought there's an overlap, no problem, but I don't think he actually passed him before the control line, did he?
I need to look at it again, but he was just reiterating to the team that whatever he did,
that's why he did it.
And that was Will Davison in the weeds there as well.
It's not close, so just eyes forward, mate. Do a good job. If you can pass it safely, do it.
So here it is. Yeah. So that is deemed off the racetrack. So once he's off the racetrack, it then becomes not a problem to pass him, I should think.
It's fair game.
Yeah.
But that's what I was saying is the mistake. It's your restart. You control the speed of the car. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, because you're effectively controlling the field.
Take a look at Stephen Johnson. He was so aggressive here.
I think he may have missed a gear. Whincup up that next straight out of turn 1. Because he had a little gap.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's actually got away from... and the fact that Stephen had to violently pull left suggests you're right. There's Will Davison. There was an image of him a lap back on some green stuff at the top of the hill. Now, Stephen Johnson hasn't stopped. Jamie Whincup has, so that has an impact on the reality. Here we go. Car 49's got a pit lane drive-through penalty, and that is Steve Owens' unsafe release for what we commented on just a little earlier.
Just a bizarre start to this race.
So what has really mixed this up, Johnson from Whincup, from Winterbottom, Bright, Courtney, Holdsworth, Fiore, David Reynolds right up in position 8, Shane Van Gisbergen and Paul Dumbrell. That's your top 10. So all this chaos at the start has got a very weird mix. Steve Johnson hasn't stopped, neither has Dean Fiore. So of the top 10 cars, only 2 haven't stopped. And here's the pressure. Right up in behind, you can't be any closer than that. Whincup right behind Steve Johnson. Mark Winterbottom in behind him. And Jason Bright with good car speed. fantastic shot through turn 16, 200k corner.
Quite a turnaround for Stephen Johnson. He did a good job in qualifying for race 1. He qualified 8th. Ended up right down the bottom of the field before working his way back up to 11th. We documented his problems earlier, but...
Target minus 15 on the dash, mate. Target minus 15 on the dash.
One of them was the box which holds the dry ice for the cool suit. The hatch kept opening, the lid kept opening, and he didn't know what was going on. He was getting smothered, smacked around by dry ice in the cabin. Which he said was okay on the right-handers, but not the left-handers.
That was turn 2. It's 180 kilometres an hour as the cars emerge over that rise, and that's down through the corkscrew. That's out of turn 7. And this is on board with Mark Winterbottom, right in behind Jamie Whincup.
Now, the thing that worries me a bit about those that are trying to play the one-stop game is I don't know how they're going to get through on tyres. I reckon that it's all very well to look at the fuel in isolation, but I'm not sure the tyres are going to cope with this.
Well, does the temperature help that, Compo? I mean, it's cooler tonight than it was last night.
It does, for sure. Take a close look at how these cars achieve their speed.
And if we had much more in the way of delays in this race, it'll revert to a time-certain finish rather than a number of laps, and we're within 3 minutes of that potentially happening. So we really can't afford any more delays or stoppages. It won't run its full distance.
Steve Johnson driving the car very well, Compo. He's very neat and tidy and accurate. You can see there the way that we were saying last night. Jamie Whincup, just watch how he turns at the corner. He turns earlier to the corner than Steve Johnson, so he runs the car in on the front wheel and tries to keep the momentum up. See how he's just in and he's got their momentum and nice and smooth in the throttle. And you watch the way that Mark Winterbottom and the FPL Falcon, we're on board with him. He was very fast. He led the race and then made a mistake at the restart. Cost him 2 positions. As the other 2 guys just start to sneak away from him at turn 2. That's 180k. This is fast. 145 around to the right and down to this slow left-hander. And this is the corkscrew. Look how far downhill it runs through turn 5. Whincup.
We've got another penalty for Paul Dumbrell for disobeying the pit lane exit red light. So Paul Dumbrell is going to have to cop a penalty for ignoring the red light on the pit lane exit.
And Whincup's got speed on Steve Johnson.
The way this is panning out, Whincup's got that regulation look when he's about to attack somebody.
And this is it. This is it. He's close enough. And he's been good here under brakes.
And the instructions from Mark Dutton were if you can do it safely, do it. Don't mess around. Try and get it done when you see the first opportunity. And this is it. Johnson's going to fight for this position. They go side by side. But they weave their way through.
And it's good to see Steve put the fight up. You know, that's racing. Jamie knows that's not going to be easy. He did a great job of...
Johnson, we don't need to race Johnson. We need to conserve fuel, mate. We need to conserve fuel so we can get to the end with the correct strategy so we don't get mauled from behind. Copy.
Yeah, but Jamie was equally concerned about Winterbottom. But they're concerned at Team Vodafone about Jamie having to take too much risk to deal with Stephen, and he'll be cleansed when he stops.
And that's something I reckon too of an admission that it's not going to be easy here, because you use up all this energy trying to get through. The last time that Mark Dutton spoke to Jamie Whincup, he said, go get him. If you can get him, take him. Now he's saying we don't have to race him. Let's conserve the fuel so we stick to our strategy. They made contact there, a good whack.
In fact, that was a much bigger whack than I thought, and so that's more the more reason why Vodafone are concerned about it. Too much of that and you'll bend a steering arm or something else will go wrong, no doubt.
So this is a good, healthy battle with Johnson from Whincup, Winterbottom, Bright, Courtney, Holdsworth, all in this group. They've all got good speed. 5 of them
fuel, mate. I don't know
have
if
had a
it's possible
stop.
to get the numbers we need, but we need to conserve fuel. Copy, mate.
Mark Dutton reminding Jamie Whincup about this fuel strategy. And there's Jason Bryant having a bit of a look at the back of Mark Winterbottom. He's very close, doesn't quite get there.
Well, this is the other thing. This scenario of Whincup having to save fuel, of Stephen holding his ground, it's going to bring everybody else into the game. Now, I just heard Winterbottom getting cranky. I also heard Michael Caruso getting very emotional on the radio a moment ago. So there are a lot of people out there at the moment uncomfortable.
This is James Moffat and Alex Davison.
It's a silly spot to try to pass. There's no passing spot there.
And that probably ended up in James, certainly well off the road, maybe even rubbing the wall.
That was where you saw Jason Bright getting super close to the rear of Mark Winterbottom.
Now the black flag's still outstanding for Paul Dumbrell at the moment.
A little bit of speed's fallen away here for Stephen Johnson, because now Whincup's right on the back of him.
Yeah. Jamie will be able to get into fuel conservation mode if he can clear Stephen. While he's in underneath the back of him at the moment, I mean, he's got as a driver, that's a real problem. You've got your engineers saying don't burn fuel, but you've got this guy under your feet and you've got a whole pack on the back of your car.
Slipstream behind Johnson, we did slipstream behind Johnson. Air temps are good, air temps are okay, so slipstream, conserve fuel.
So this is a very important strategy here. Mark Dutton saying slipstream, so stay right in behind. And what that allows you to do is come off the throttle down those big long straights and maintain your car speed. So Neil's saying go and round him up, and I totally agree. You'll do a much better job of fuel consumption if you can run your own race. But Mark Dutton's saying hang in behind him and try to suck him along and achieve the fuel strategy by slipstreaming.
Conservation of that.
Well, this is real engineer and driver teamwork.
What will happen is Jamie will get monstered by those behind. Mark's a bright guy and a great engineer. I just don't reckon he's putting his driver in a good position at the moment, because he will get attacked and he'll end up being the loser. If you can't run the right rhythm, the pack will eat you.
Absolutely.
So he's well positioned now to have a look. Once he gets that done, you can back Stephen up all day long. Here we go. So here we go. He's having a good look. This is a repeat of what we saw before. This time, though, he's got much better position and he can't Stephen wide. Now the job is done. Now you come out of the throttle and you make the whole lot of them stand in your queue.
So Jamie Whincup took his own licence there to take advantage when it came to him. It still was risky because they made contact again. Not as bad as the first time around.
But in terms of road presence, getting up far enough and making an authoritative pass, Jamie was much more committed that time. And he took it off and he pushed him wide and he was able to do it. You watch his relative car position. You've got to get the nose of the car up where he can see you. You've turned it in and you've made your presence felt. He's pushed him wide and then said, it's all mine.
And now he'll go back to chasing those critical numbers on the dashboard. So he'll be shifting gear early, he'll be rolling out of the throttle early under brakes, he'll be doing everything he can to try and get back what he's just burnt. But I think he's now in a much better position, and Jamie knows that. That's why he's done what he's done.
His heart would have skipped a beat there when the rear right locked in with the front left of car 17.
Now, there's no radio comms for Steve Johnson, I understand. That's the reason why DJ Dick Johnson was out on the wall with the old-fashioned pit board. Mark Winterbottom. Risky there up at turn 3. It's a bit of a hot spot this weekend.
A few different lines here. Some guys run it very close to that inside apex early, and then others run it wide. And there's 2 or 3 ways of getting onto the straight. And there's a bit of impatience building with Jason Bright and Mark Winterbottom. That's Bright on your left. There's Winterbottom. He's going to get him down there. That's 2 or 3 times.
Disappointing night last night for Jason Bright and Team BOC, because they had a steering rack seal break, and obviously there was a heap of oil came out and blue smoke. They had to park the car and replace the steering rack. But we've seen terrific speed from Jason and this team recently, and he's putting it to good effect tonight.
Now, Jamie Whincup has been asked to conserve fuel. The way to do that is you limit the revs. You come off the throttle. If you ever get near a rev limiter, you come away from the throttle before you get to the rev limiter. All the down changes are limited. So instead of blipping the throttle for every gear change, you blip the throttle in a very minimal way. So when you come down those gears, it's a whoa, whoa, instead of a big buzz of the engine. And the meaning of all that might be 10 or 20% fuel saving for a lap, which is crucial for him to get away with a one-stop strategy. These laps are very important.
Now, remember, if you're watching our coverage yesterday, Steve Johnson now in the lane, Mark Larkham made a big point about the critical number in this race to get your field and home